channel. Hey, you know what time it is, No Press fam? Welcome everyone to another episode of The Beatdown, the segment where two worlds collide. I am your host, Class, and this is my co-host, Big. Doing it big, baby. And as a friendly reminder, if you guys enjoy our content, you know what you can do? You can share, like, or leave a comment down section below, or turn on your notifications to get the latest episodes. And we keeping it 100 subs. And SR Striker, we just wanted to give you a heads up. We saw your list. It's going to take us some time to make. We got to make some scheduling. Me and Mr. J got to work together, make a schedule to make those episodes happen, but they will happen. Just be patient with us. And moving on from that, I will be representing, since this month is Thor 4, I figured we'd do some episode with the villain. So I'll be representing Marvel Comics, Gorr, the God Butcher. So let's just start off before Gorr became the Butcher. He was just an ordinary person living, or an ordinary creature living in another planet. And in this planet where he lived at, him and his wife had to really struggle throughout their whole life, even his family. The water and the food were scarce over there, so they had to keep struggling every day. But the wife always hoped that the gods would hear their plea. And she was pregnant at the time, but the gods never heard her plea. She actually, I think, died in an earthquake. And then his family after that died one by one. So Gorr was the only one standing with his child, and his child got killed as well. So now he curses the gods. He doesn't even believe in the gods. And he spews this blasphemy in the village, and they decide, hey, we don't want to hear that. He's like, we're going to banish you. So they kick him out of the village, and now he is wandering the desert. Wandering the planet in starvation and dehydration. Eventually, as he's almost the point of death, he sees something falling from the sky hitting the planet. And it's these two gods fighting it out. Eventually, it's like an evil god versus a good god. Eventually, the good god kills the evil god. But unfortunately, the good god's injured, and he asks Gorr for help. And Gorr says, "Are you kidding me? After everything I went through, you have the nerve to ask me for help when you've never helped us?" So he's enraged by the idea that the god would even ask him for any kind of mercy, even though he never got any mercy throughout his whole life. So having to suffer throughout his whole life, eventually the weapon or the god that was dying attached himself. It's a symbiote attached itself. I believe it was a symbiote attached to the weapon. I'm not really quite sure on that technically, but he attaches itself to Gorr, and because of its rage, because of his hatred towards the gods, and then they combine together, and then Gorr gets the job done and finishes the good god with his new weapon, which is an all-black symbiote. And then he just decides to put on a spacesuit and then travel around, and he makes a vow that he's going to kill all the gods in existence. And that's the brief origin story of Gorr, the God Butcher. Powers, abilities, and feats. Let's get into it, shall we, folks? All right. It's called an all-black, the Necro Sword. Constituent matter manipulation, superhuman strength, superhuman durability, superhuman speed, superhuman reflexes, longevity, regeneration, master torturer, combat skills as well. He has beaten Thor a few times. Okay, and I'm not even emphasizing how much yet. I will tell you in a minute. Sliced through moons and suns. Okay, planets. Okay, suns and moons. Okay, survived a black hole level of pressure. Okay, was able to escape that. Trap people in a Black Sea-like top tier characters like King Thor. Okay, King Thor is Thor at the ultimate level, pretty much, at his full might. So he actually trapped him in some kind of Black Sea thing. Has beaten Thor a few times, and this is what I mean by that. He's defeated at the same time, by the way. Keep in mind, unworthy Thor when he was young, worthy Thor at his prime when he's when he has the weapon, and then King Thor at his oldest. He beat all three of them. Okay. He tortured the god of torture. That's got to say something. He can trap Thor's hammers. Okay, Mjolnir, he can just have them trapped inside some kind of all black symbiont cage, and Mjolnir can't escape even if Thor summons it. That's crazy because Mjolnir is able to escape pretty much anything. He could take on Berserker Thor. I only emphasize more about Thor because that's obviously his greatest foe, and at the same time, Thor is a top tier character. That's a guy you don't really need a lot of characters to show how powerful you are. It's like saying if somebody went against Superman a bunch of times, it's showing how bad that character happens to be. All right. Gorr, this is even the most impressive feat. Gorr at one point became his own universe. Even if it was for a brief amount of time, yes, Gorr had his own universe. Okay, guys, so the end game to this one. Let's get real. Gorr, the God Butcher, has a lot of powers. Billy, or Shazam, let's just call him Billy, he was able to hold his own against Superman. He's barely able to hold his own against the Spectre, and the Spectre is kind of a cosmic level being. But Gorr has been able to kill a lot of cosmic level beings, Galactus. He's done it pretty much with his weapon. So as long as he has that weapon, he does have a fairly good chance at putting Shazam down easily in this situation. Or he can actually just trap him in one of those black seas as well, like he did with King Thor. If King Thor can get trapped in it, he's like the ultimate Thor. I gotta think Shazam easily would get trapped in it. Three other things he could do. One, he could trap Thor in his own universe. He could throw Thor in his own, that all, necro black symbiote universe, and then have him and just mess with them there. That would be a possibility. He could threaten the human life. He could threaten all human life if he doesn't give up his powers and fight him like an ordinary kid, or just give up his powers to sacrifice himself so that way the people can live. Even though Gorr would probably lie. Regardless, either way, but he's not even after the people, he's after the gods. But he could make that threat and then make Shazam give himself up. At some point, Gorr could just trap Shazam in some kind of cage and then just start doing what he does best. He is known as one of the best torturers, so maybe he tortures him enough to get Billy to come out. I mean, that's a possibility. If he tortures Shazam enough and Shazam can't get himself free, and if he tortured the god of tortures, I'm sure he can torture Shazam enough to turn back to Billy and then get rid of Billy that way. End of the story, end game, and Gorr the God Butcher takes 7 gods out. Alright, I have my work cut out for me today. I'll be representing DC Comics Shazam.
A little help here, Shazam!
Alright, brief origin story time. So, I'm just gonna let you guys know, keep this in mind, this was made in the 1940s, okay? This is the 1940s version because this is about to get weird. So there was a kid by himself walking down the street, and a random stranger guides him to a subway train station where he gets inside a train, okay? A random stranger, as if we want to accept the fact that this kid should go up to a stranger and follow this stranger to anywhere because it'll take him to a magical place. Wow. Anyways, getting back to it. So in the comic version of this, he actually does wind up in this magical realm, and he sees like right there in this hallway full of 7 of the deadly sins, and then at the end of that hallway there is a man sitting on a marble throne, and it's an old man, and his name is the wizard Shazam. Now, he confesses to Billy Billy is just this little young kid, and he confesses to Billy that he has seen his struggle. The fact that he lost his parents, the fact that he was pretty much almost an orphan, the fact that his uncle took his inheritance money, and he was left penniless, and he's persevered with his pure heart, showed the wizard that, hey, you're worthy of this. So he gave Billy the ability to obtain his power by chanting his name, Shazam. And thus, that is the brief origin story of Captain Marvel, aka Shazam. Powers, abilities, and feats. Let's get into it, everybody. Alright, so we got the S for Solomon. The S is for Wisdom of Solomon. The Wisdom of Solomon gives Billy great knowledge, perception, comprehension, and insight. By mystical means, Solomon is actually able to speak to Billy during his times of need. Okay, H is for the strength of Hercules, strongest of the gods. Billy is empowered with Hercules' nearly limitless superhuman strength, which is often compared to that of Superman. Okay. A is for the stamina of Atlas, Titan who bears the heavens on his shoulders. This means he doesn't need to sleep or eat as Captain Marvel, and his virtually limitless superhuman endurance. Z is for the power of Zeus, most powerful of the gods. Though the term power of Zeus is vague, this grants Billy many abilities with many possibilities unknown as of yet, at least unknown for me. A is for courage of Achilles, greatest hero of the Trojan War. This grants him the inner strength and confidence. M is for the speed of Mercury, swiftest of the gods. This grants Marvel his godlike speed and his power to fly. He has flight, teleportation, magic, magical lightning manipulation, supernatural guardian, supernatural perception, supernatural invulnerability, supernatural speed, supernatural strength, invulnerability, courage, healing, magical resistance, superhuman stamina, self-subsistence, and hypnosis. You can get all this information from this website called Comic Vine. Actually, it's pretty great, where you can get all these abilities and you get to his background and everything. So here's who he's beat. This is some of his impressive feats. Shaked off Plastic Man, fought off the Justice League when they were possessed, like Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and the Flash. Gave Lobo a beating, took a Superman Calypso. Lobo and Shazam rocked the cosmos. Took down his own master, who is the Wizard Shazam, who gave him the powers. Knocked out Superman with his magical punch. He accidentally made a black hole. He beat the Spectre at some point. Alright, so the end game for this one. Let me just start off by saying that even if you want to give Shazam a more upper advantage, because let's face it, Gorr is pretty powerful. He's a cosmic level character, so with his weapon, so having to face him, it's not going to be as easy. But let's say you want to give Shazam a little more boost. Let's keep in mind, Shazam has upgraded his gods since the last time, so it's not the regular gods before, but let's say he decides to upgrade his gods. There's a character called Ronmanir, Ate, that's Ate is a separate one. Siva is another one. Anapa is another one. Sorry if I'm saying those wrong, but yeah, those are the new gods he has, and they're making him even much more powerful. Another thing to add to that note is that he just could keep the playing field leveled. All he has to do is keep him somewhere where sound is very sensitive, so he can make a lot of loud supersonic sounds just with his punches alone. Keeping Gorr's, because remember this, if you don't know this, it's a symbiote. Okay, so that symbiote can still deal with fire and sonic sounds, and still is vulnerable to it, or still has weaknesses to it. Or he can keep the pressure by keeping him somewhere in a hot environment. As long as Shazam keeps him in somewhere where he can handle the heat, while this gives kind of Gorr a low playing field when it comes, because he relies solely on the symbiote to do pretty much his doing. He can't really take a big god without his weapon, his ultimate weapon. Now, there was a conversation from my other counterpart saying that he can just put him in his universe. Remember, Shazam was able to punch a hole to create a black hole himself. So I think whatever universe he gets caught up in, I do believe Shazam has the force to break himself out of it if he needs to. I think the lightning is going to give Shazam an ability to kind of stall Gorr's weapons, because he can also create all these other creatures, so I think the lightning will keep them pretty occupied. That way he can still have some defense as he tries to create a formal plan on how he's going to take Gorr out. I think that Shazam could go pretty much a little bit longer, so if he takes the fight for a long period of time, I do believe that if he can get Gorr at some point to a weakened state, he could just summon the Shazam lightning bolt and hit him really hard, separating him from the symbiote. Now, there's a couple ways we can go about it on this end. Now, let's say for that moment it gets separated. Billy, all he has to do is chant his name again, he's back to being Shazam, and then he can do two things. One, he could eliminate Gorr immediately before the symbiote can connect back to, the all-black symbiote can connect back to Gorr. Just decapitate his head and that's it. Or he could grab onto the symbiote himself. Because he has a purest heart, I think he has the ability to hold his own when he needs to, and then maybe take this thing to a black hole or into a sun and just end it that way, and then come back for Gorr and finish him off Either way, I do believe Billy Battison's speed and everything else he has combined is going to make him, with the 7 gods, is going to make him the victorious one. As always, No Press fam, it's not up to me and it's not up to Biggs. It's up to you guys. So if you guys like my argument, you know what you can do? You can hashtag Gorr the God Butcher. And if you like my boy's argument, hashtag Shazam. And as always, No Press fam, we really appreciate you guys. Catch you guys later. Peace.